Alrighty. So, make sure everything OBS likes me. It likes me. Yippee. Okay. So today is all about an introduction on how to teach pinwheels. So hopefully if you're brand new to teaching pinwheels or maybe you're already very experienced, you'll still get a little bit of new knowledge from this clinic. My name is Felix and I'll be talking about this topic today. So feel free to send your questions in the call chat throughout the clinic. I'll be doing my best to keep an eye on the clinic chat. And then there also will be time for questions at the end. So if you have a burning question, but it doesn't pop into your head until the very end of the clinic, that's okay. You can ask it at the end as well. Okay, let's get going. Sure. All right, so this is the agenda for today, kind of like an overview of the topics that we're going to be looking at. So we're going to start with circle alignment. So this is just basic. How do you get your riders used to aligning to one person or a single anchor in a circle so that when you do get them into a pinwheel, all your spokes are even. Later on, you can get fancy and you could make your pinwheel spokes like maybe slightly uneven if you want more of an asymmetrical look. But we'll talk about how do you make them nice and even, evenly spaced all around. Uh, Sorry, Rain, what do you mean the front? Is it you guys can only see the first page of the slide still, or is it showing the agenda? The agenda page right now, just to confirm. Is Discord being a boogie? Okay, we can see the agenda. Okay, Rain, I'm recording, so if it's not working for you, you're gonna see the whole slideshow at the end. So hopefully it fixes itself, but if not, I'm gonna send the recording after. Okay, well, the recording should have everything nicely at the end. Okay, so then we're gonna talk about circle alignment. Then we'll talk about how do you set up your riders in their spokes. We'll get into different types of pinwheels after that. So how do you do rotary pinwheels? How do you do split pinwheels? Other shapes, so like diamonds, boxes, ovals. And then how can you combine different shapes so your each layer of the pinwheel is like an alternating shape, or you could get really creative and each layer is its own shape if you wanted. If you really want to challenge your writers, for example. Alrighty, let's keep moving and grooving. So, so circle alignment. So this is kind of your standard 5, 10, 15, 20 meter circle. This is generally what people learn first um, when they're learning the meter system. So I highly encourage that you get your riders really comfortable with your basic circles before you get them into pinwheels. Because if they're not comfortable with the basic meter system and understanding how to ride a nice circle, they're going to be on the struggle bus when it comes to pinwheels. So kind of some basics, I'll just go through these quickly. You want to make sure that you're riding through the center of your circle points and you're focusing on making nice curved shapes from dot to dot. If your riders struggle with finding their dots, diagrams like this are super helpful. You can also give them the trick of like from X or the center of the arena, they count out however many dots to find out where they need to be. So for example, for your 20 meter, which is the yellow dots here, the biggest size you can make without it becoming an oval. It's 4 dots away from X, or they can also use the trick of from their current dot, they count 4 dots diagonally away, and that fourth dot diagonally away would be their next circle point. What I also like to do is when I'm writing circles is I imagine the curved lines on the arena floor, kind of like the lines you see in like a basketball court or like a football or a soccer or field hockey field. I kind of just imagine that curve shape. Um, like with most things with dressage, just takes practice. So encourage your riders. Maybe they're making wonky like straight lines or squiggly lines while they're riding circles. Just encourage them. It just takes practice. It takes time. You'll get better as you go. The other thing too is your circle tempo. So this is the speed at which you tap your turn key, so your A or D key or your left or right arrow key, and that will change depending on the gate you're in and also the size of your circle. So the faster you're moving, the faster your tempo, the slower you're moving, the slower your tempo, the smaller the circle, the faster the tempo, and the larger the circle, the slower the tempo. So again, I just encourage that you get your riders used to the 4 different circle sizes and riding at different gates. So walk, trot, canter, extended canter, and even backup. That can be challenging to try and back up and stay aligned at the same time. but just to get them sort of comfortable with that before you progress into actual pinwheels. Okay, so and then want to make sure I mention this. If you have some people really struggling, you could have a stronger rider lead them through the circle. The weaker rider kind of follows them, like maybe NTT or boss. You can have the top-down view, and if they have a second monitor, they can watch themselves on there. Or you can demonstrate and maybe show your point of view with a stream so they can understand like what are the things that you're doing to make a nice curve shape. So that's several options you have in case somebody's really having a hard time. Alrighty, just checking if there's questions. Okay, beautiful. All right, so what is circle alignment? So this can be a little bit weird, especially if your riders have only ever done comb alignment. So in a straight line, riding side by side, you look at your lead and you align to them. While in a circle, the alignment is the same, which is really weird for your brain. So you're still thinking about at the walk, your back hooves to your lead or anchor's uh, front hooves. So if we look in this little picture here, the person on with the purple um, is their back hooves are crossing the E 5 meter midline point as their anchor across in like the green or the mint. Their front hooves are reaching the B midline 5 meter point. So even though we're not riding side by side, you still think about your back hooves to your anchor or your lead in the circle's front hooves at the walk. So it's still walk comb alignment, quote unquote, even though you're riding a curve shape in a circle. So what you can do is it's easiest when you're across from your anchor like this. So anytime that you're passing your center line or your midline, you can checkpoint and go, hey, are my back hooves in line with my anchor's front hooves? And you can also checkpoint at the letter dies as well. All right. And then for trot across alignment, it's tail, your tail is passing as your anchor's nose is reaching. For canter, your tail is passing as your anchor is 1 horse away. And then extended canter, your tail is passing as your anchor is 2 horse lengths away. All right. Where this gets fun is when your anchor is not directly across from you. So this is where you want to think about where are they in relation to you in the circle. So let's just backtrack a little bit to the previous slide. So if, say for example, you're here on E. Hopefully you guys can see my pointer, my mouse pointer. But say your anchor person is maybe behind you on the C center line. So as you're moving around the circle, your anchor person or the lead that you're aligning to is always 1/4 of the circle behind you, or you can also think of it as 2 pie slices. So there's like a slice between E and H, then a slice between H and C. They're always 2 pie slices or 1/4 of the arena behind you. Okay, perfect. Thank you, Heike. So as you are moving around the arena, say you're on the 20 meter here, as you're extended cantering around, well, maybe you're not extended cantering, whatever gait you're doing on the 20, you would look behind you, say you were trotting. So as you're passing E midline, your tail is passing, your anchor's nose would be reaching C center line behind you. So even though they're not directly across from you, like in the examples on the next slide, you're still thinking about the same alignment. Now, where it gets even more interesting is if they're on the other half of the circle from you. So, say you had 8 riders in the circle and you want them evenly spaced. To start, you would have one on each of your center lines and midlines, but then you would have people on the letter dies as well. You would have 4 riders on the letter dies. So in this case, say for example, I'm still here on E midline, but say my anchor starts here on M letter die. So now this is a little trickier. So now there are 3 pie slices behind me. So as I'm crossing center line or midline, they're on a letter die, but still same principle. Your tail is passing, say at the trot, their nose would be reaching the letter dies. And then say you move here over to K letter die, they would then be at C center line. Same thing, as your tail is passing letter dies, their nose is reaching center line midline. So you kind of have to like flip in your head where your anchor is in relation to you. Again, this just takes practice over time. Your riders will get more comfortable and they'll just kind of know, okay, my anchor is in this position. There are this many pie slices behind me or ahead of me, or maybe I got lucky, they're across from me. And then they'll know how to line there. But you might have to kind of like remind them like, hey, your anchor is here. You should be this far ahead or this far behind them. Um, what you can also do is set like a secondary anchor. So like say like if you have somebody really struggling to understand maybe their anchor is on a letter die and they're on a center line midline, you can say, okay, like you're starting at E, but your anchor person is on M letter die. So then use your other rider here. Maybe you have a stronger rider who's here on the center line as like a secondary anchor. So say your rider here is having a harder time and they're really struggling to keep track of the anchor on M letter die. You can say, okay, check where this person is here on C center line. There are two pie slices behind you, or they're on a center line while you're on a midline. If you're really struggling to anchor to this person and this stronger rider is doing a good job, you can tell your rider here to just anchor to this person here. So they're like a backup or secondary anchor, if that makes sense. All right. So that's circle alignment. And again, just takes practice. The more your riders do it, the more they'll be comfortable with it. This is also where you can develop the talent of what the owner of the club I'm in toilet with Crystal Pirates, ambidextrous eyes, where you're like looking at like several spots of the top-down monitor at the same time, trying to keep track of all your riders and giving them encouragement and saying, okay, take a canter stride here, walk stride here. Oh, you're a little ahead, a little behind. Remember, you need to be watching this person, that sort of thing. Alrighty. Do we have any questions about circle alignment before we keep going with how to set up your pinwheel? Any questions? I'm gonna take a sip of my beverage. You guys are tippy tappy. Okay. If you don't have any questions, no worries. If you think of something later, you can send it later. Let's keep on moving and grooving. All right. So how to set up your regular circle pinwheel. So I recommend that you set up with your 5 meter. So generally your anchors for your spokes are on the 5 meter circle. So depending on how many people you have at practice, or maybe you're trying to set up a pinwheel for a routine, start with your 5 meter peeps because they're usually the anchors for the spokes. So for example, here, say we had one spoke on the C center line, you would have one person here on the 5, one on the 10, one on the 15, and one on the 20. Um, and then say you had more spokes, you have enough riders for more. Say you had another spoke here on the A center line. So then once you have your 5 meter rider set up, you would pick one person as the anchor for the 5 meter circle. Say it's the C center line rider, and all the 5 meter riders would align to them at the walk, using that as your back hooves are passing, your anchor's front hooves are reaching. So they would all align to this person. So all your 5 meter riders are aligned to your C center line person. And then from there, each of your spokes aligns to their pookie on the inside, their 5 meter anchor. And then as long as all your 5 meter riders are doing a good job aligning to the main anchor, then all your spokes should be even, theoretically. But this is why it's important to kind of get them used to circle alignment, because then if all these guys are doing a good job staying aligned to the main anchor, then all your spokes should look nice. What's interesting about pinwheel alignment is because not everybody is on the same circle size, your alignment changes with each layer of the circle that you go out, or the pinwheel that you go out. So even though your 5 meter riders are working at the walk, your 10 meter riders, they're riding a larger circle, so they need to move faster. They usually work at a trot to canter. And even though their 5 meter person is walking, they still look for trot alignment to their 5 meter person. So as they are crossing center line, midline, letter dies, they look to be tail ahead of their spoke anchor's nose. Even though this person is working at the walk, this person still looks for NTT ahead or tail in front of nose. Once you get out to the 15, bigger circle, so they are moving faster, canter, extended canter. They are looking to be 1 horse ahead of their spoke anchor. And then your 20 meter pookies, they're the ones who are zooming, moving really fast. Usually they're working at the extended canter or the gallop, and they are looking to be extended canter aligned or 2 horse lengths ahead. Another thing you can do as well, some people prefer this, is as you guys are, especially your 15 and 20 meter riders, because they move really fast, what they can do is every time they cross a center line or a midline, they can slow to the trot, make sure they are NTT ahead of their anchor, and then they can zoom again until their next checkpoint. So that's an option if maybe you have someone who's not comfortable with those bigger alignment gaps, the one horse and the two horse lengths, they can slow to the trot, find alignment, and then speed up, find alignment, speed up, find alignment, etc., etc. All right. So that's your basic pinwheel setup. Um, Again, if you have one rider that's really struggling, you can have a stronger rider kind of lead them through it. You can show your point of view. Um, and then while they're following that stronger rider or they're watching their point of view, they can see how often you gate up, gate down, gate up, gate down to stay aligned to your anchor. Riv, that's a good question. How do you choose what riders go where? So usually what I'll do is say you kind of know your riders really well and you have some that are maybe newer to circles. I would put them on the 5 because that's the smallest one and it's the easiest to manage because you do have that dark boundary. I shouldn't point at my screen, I should use my mouse. You have that dark boundary of the 5 meter that they can use as a reference point as well. So I would put them here. And then your riders that are more comfortable with circles and also more comfortable with comb alignment and circle alignment, I would put them on the bigger sizes. Also, too, what's fun is if you have some riders who, generally your group is just a strong group, you can just say, okay, pick a spot, any spot you like. They'll just pick a spot they like in the pinwheel and then go from there. You might have to tell some people, like volunteer them to be on the 5. But what I also do when I'm doing pinwheels is I have them trade spots. So say, for example, you had 4 people here on the C spoke. We would do like 1 or 2 rotations and then I would have them trade. So the 5 meter rider would go out to the 20, the 10 would go to the 5, the 15 to the 10, and then the 20 to the 15. So everybody has a chance to ride all the layers and practice all the alignments. That's a good question, Madeline. Set anchor is the 5 meter rider. So for example, the canter 15 meter would be 1 horse ahead. Yes. So at the canter, even though these guys are moving at the walk, it's a little funny because you're so used to your anchor moving at the same speed as you, but in this case they're slower. You would still look for 1 horse. So what you could try at first is say have your 15 and 20 meter riders check for trot alignment on the center line midline, and then they can look for their 1 horse or 2 horse alignment on the letter die, slow down, trot alignment, regular canter, extended canter at the letter die, slow down, trot alignment. And then once they're really comfortable with like how fast they need to be moving, then they could try to look for that 1 horse or 2 horse the entire time. But you are going really fast, especially in the 20. So sometimes it's nice to have them slow down and checkpoint at each individual midline center line. And then your other question is, instead of anchoring to the 5 meter rider, would they instead take the 10 meter? So that's a good question. You do want them to always look at their 5 meter rider because these guys are quote unquote reliable. They're moving at a slower gait and they're all anchored to one person, to one rider in the 5. Sometimes you have some riders who are being bookie bad drivers. Maybe like they have really bad leg or they got distracted by their cat or there's a ghost in their closet or I don't know. So always have them anchored to the 5 meter person um, and just kind of ignore the other riders. They're just looking at their Pookie in the small circle. If I have a group of strong riders, this is a question from Z, is it better to put people with lower levels on the smaller circles or it doesn't matter that much? So what I would recommend is um, have everybody ride all the spots. Um, in a routine, like especially in routines, you're not it's not like regular dressage or the dressage that you normally do when you're first starting out, where you order by your highest level is first and then you go down the line from there. In a routine, your levels of riders are going to be all over the place. So you're going to have to find gaps and alignment with riders of all different character levels. Hopefully, everybody has max and happy horses. So it's good practice for them to align to a rider who is a lower character level than them, if that makes sense. So I would have fast riders, put your fast riders on the inside sometimes, or your higher level riders on the inside, and then your lower level riders on the outside. So everybody gets a chance to do all the spots. If that makes sense. Because in routines, you're not going to be with your say your level 25 person is always in front. Sometimes they'll be in the back, in the middle, to the left, to the right, all that good stuff. Yeah. Yeah. All right, I see Kat is typing. While Kat is typing, I'm gonna change the screen. I'm just gonna show you guys a quick video. Oh, I can change the stream. Oh, wow. Technology. Technologia. Oh, it's doing the black screen. I think I have to stop and start it again. Okay, the YouTube video I think is working. Can we see the YouTube video? Just to confirm. Okay, beautiful. All right. So this is just an example of just a regular pinwheel. So in this case, Magpie here in the orange hat is the anchor for E midline spoke. And then I'm on the other side here. I'm the the anchor for the 5 meter. So Magpie is making sure they're aligned to me. And then we only had 6 riders this day. So Jenny just picked like whatever spot she wanted here on B midline. So as we watch the video, here we're moving. So this was fun because I was riding and watching the top down at the same time. All right, so here for example, we can see these Pookies are doing a good job of staying aligned to Magpie, but this person is a little ahead. So this is where you could say like, okay, you're a little ahead on my screen. Go ahead and take 2 slower strides. So this person is working at the extended counter gallop. For example, take 2 counter strides. Make sure you're looking at your anchor here. Moving around again. So here, like this example I was saying earlier, Toilet here, she likes to gate down at the center line midline. So you can see here she's slowed to the trot. She's checking Magpie. Is she NTT ahead of Magpie? And then she sped up until the next checkpoint. So here we can see again, Star is a little ahead. So this I would say, Star, you need to slow down a little. Yeah, Toilet has a funny nickname. Yeah, it's because of something one of her friends. It was like a joke. I can't quite remember the lore. And then here we go again. So here we see Toilet again, slow down trot to check checkpoint with Magpie here. All right, so that's just an example of like a regular circle pinwheel. All right, I'm gonna go back to the slideshow. Oh, and that's another good point from that video is especially when you're watching your riders from the top down, have them wear like lots like different colored hats. Like they can have like a competition hat. Everybody has a unique one, so that especially if everybody rides the same horse, it's easier to tell them apart if their hats are different. So you can do that too. And then you can have your spoke anchors and your like main anchor in the 5 meter wear something brightly colored, so it's easier for their pookies on each spoke to find them. Okay, so that is just like your normal circle pinwheel. All right, let's get into rotary pinwheels. All right, so like a normal rotary is where you would have each layer of the circle flips the direction that you're traveling in. So for example, your 5 and your 50 meter circles could be going clockwise with your right leg in, and then your 10 and your 20 meter circles could be going counterclockwise with your left leg in. When you turn that into a pinwheel, same thing. Each layer of the pinwheel or the circle is alternating directions, but now you have to think about alignment is the extra little bit here. So in the diagram here, you're going to set up the same way. You're going to have your 5 meter riders with a designated main anchor that they all align to at the walk, and then each of your spokes aligns to their spoke anchor. So if we look here, this is C center line. Your 15-meter riders are going in the same direction as your 5-meter riders. They're both going clockwise or right leg in. So they just align as normal to their spoke anchor. But your 10 and your 20-meter riders are going the opposite way. They're going counterclockwise, left leg in. So this makes it a little trickier. They still need to stay aligned to their spoke anchor, but half of the time they're going to be on the opposite side of the circle from their spoke anchor. So this is why I have these letters here. So say for example, you're the 10-meter rider starting on the C center line, and your spoke anchor is just here. So as you start traveling, you're moving away from them. You guys are going opposite directions. So as you get around to, this is E midline, as the 10-meter rider, your spoke anchor is now across from you. They're at B midline. So you're even though your anchor is here, you're still aligned to them. You would think, oh, now I need to be aligned to the rider, the spoke anchor who's here, no, you want to land to this person. Keep an eye on your Pookie. They're now over here. So then as you travel over to E as the 10-meter rider, hey, your Pookie is back. They're next to you. You can align to them again. And then you keep going. You're over here by G or B midline, and then your anchor is now across from you again. They're on B midline. And then as you get back around, you guys are side by side again. Rotaries, you pray and you have an eye. Yeah, kind of. um, so it does feel a little weird at first, but as your riders do it more, they get used to it and they kind of know instinctively, oh, I'm going the opposite way. So half of my checkpoints, my anchor is across from me. And even though you guys are traveling in opposite directions, well, it's like the example I showed earlier. Here, let's just backtrack here. Here we go. So whenever you and your anchor are side by side, you would just think about being, for example, on the 10, you are doing a combination of trot canter. You think about being NTT ahead or your tail in front of their nose. But then whenever you're across from your anchor, you would be doing this trot across alignment. So your tail is still in front of their nose. As your tail is passing, their nose is reaching. That's the fun of rotaries. Riv, I'm gonna put the recording up on YouTube. I don't know if my internet is a bookie. It might take a while to upload, but I will send it in the clinic thread after. If you would like to be pinged, just send me a note in there and I will give you my attendee role and then I'm going to ping that. If you would like the ping. Otherwise, I'm going to send it there after. Okay. Do we have any questions about rotary pinwheels before we keep going? Any questions about rotary pinwheels? We all good? All right. Let's keep going then. So next thing is split pinwheels. So what this means is you are taking the different layers of your pinwheels and you are moving them away from each other. So in this example, our 5-meter is still around X, and I would recommend this to start. Keep your 5-meter Pookies around X, and then move your other layers away from X. So I highly recommend that you have diagrams for this, and help your riders identify where their points are. So for example, here we moved uh, the 10-meter circle up here. I just changed the X's to different letters. So Y is the origin or the center of the 10-meter layer of the pinwheel here. So then you just count out 2 dots from the center on either side. And that's your circle points for the 10. So we have one here. What is this? This is the 5-meter A center line on the quarter line, the 25-meter line on A center line, still on the quarter line. This is the 15-meter dot on your A center line. And then I can't keep track of my walleters when they're not on the diagram. But it's 3 dots, or what is this? This is still the 15-meter line, but on the wall, on B wall. So just help your riders identify where their circle points are, where their new origin is. What you can do is you can make yourself a traffic cone, so you can stand in the middle of the circle so they can use you as a reference point. Or if you have some stronger riders, ask them to traffic cone for a bit so that your more experienced riders can get a chance to kind of like orient themselves in the arena. Um, so what you can also do is once you have all your circles set up or whatever shapes you're using, have each spoke group themselves and ignore everybody else. So for example, here you have your anchor here on the 5, and then this 20-meter rider, this is their anchor, the red dot. This 15-meter rider, the red dot is their anchor. And then this 10-meter rider, their red dot is the anchor. So these 4 people would group and ignore everybody else just so they can focus on their anchor and not be confused by all the other people flying around in their pinwheel layers. You can have them do that. That helps a bit. And what's fun with split pinwheels is even though we're not all sharing the same origin X, we're still moving around our circles aligned to our anchor. So for example, as this red spoke anchor, Pookie, moves down to this position where this blue dot is, this person on the 20 would move down to this position and be aligned at this point. Same here, this 15-meter person would move down to this position, be aligned, and this person on the 10, same thing. So this can make your brain hurt the first few times you do it, but the more you do it, the easier it gets. You can also see here we have some intersection points where the circles overlap. This can create a really pretty effect. Um, and you'll also see that you might have to troubleshoot as I would say just get your riders comfortable with their layers and staying aligned to their spoke anchors. And then as you're watching, you can see, oh, people are trampling each other at this point and this point. So you might give extra guidance. So say for example here, we see that our 15-meter circle overlaps the 5 here. So you could ask your 15-meter riders as you are passing over the 5-meter dot on a center line, make sure to saddle cross with any 5-meter pookies if you need to, just so that we don't have any trampling or death. So this is where you can troubleshoot and make sure that you're not trampling your riders. Yeah. Okay, I have an example of this. Let's do another boomer moment. I'm gonna switch over to another video. Okay. All right. Here we go. So this is it's not a circle one like in the diagram, but this is a split diamond pinwheel that we did for a routine. So here, this rider here on the paint, they're the anchor for this person here and this person here. And then this person, I think this is Sunny, they're on like the chocolate brown. They're the anchor for this rider and this rider. So just watch as our two anchors move around. They're making a 5-meter diamond. The riders on the other diamonds are still watching their anchors and staying aligned. So these guys are doing a 10, and then these guys are doing a 15. So you can see here this rider is tracking, all the darker colored horses are tracking the darker colored horse. So they are hitting their diamond points at the same time as their pookie is on the 5. Yep, there you go. And now they're moving it. All right? Does that make sense? So again, the more that you practice split pinwheels, the easier it gets. All right, I'm gonna switch back to the slideshow. Do, do, do. I feel like a boomer whenever I have to do this. Okay, here we go. All right, so that's split pinwheels. Um, and like in the video, it wasn't like a circle split pinwheel, it was a diamond, so you can use other shapes. You don't have to stick to circles. And actually, that's a good segue because we're gonna get into other shapes now. Yippee! Okay, so diamond pinwheels. So you set them up the same as a circle pinwheel, except now your shape is different. Your alignment is still the same. You're going to checkpoint over your midline center line, your letter dies. You can experiment with having sharp versus rounded corners. So for example, if your 15 and 20-meter riders are doing 1-horse and 2-horse alignment at their checkpoints, you're going to have more rounded corners. So the diamond shape is going to be less sharp. But if you want those very distinct sharp corners, you can ask your 15 and 20-meter riders to trot those corners. So then it's very obvious where they are. And then this allows them to slow down, trot checkpoint with their spoke anchor, and then they can do their regular 1-horse or 2-horse alignment at the letter dice. That's your diamond. Your diamond. This can be really pretty. And then sometimes it's also paradoxically easier to ride because you're just riding straight lines. You don't have to think about making a nice curve shape. You're just going straight from dot to dot to dot. All right, that's your diamond pinwheel. Box. So basically, we're just turning the diamond on its side. But what's interesting with your boxes is that my brain is not braining. The distance you travel is actually longer because you're adding in extra space here. So like if this was a 5-meter circle, you'd be traveling the curve shape here. But since we're making the line straight, it actually takes longer to travel around the pad like this. Takes a little bit more time. And then this too can sometimes be confusing for your riders because you have new checkpoints because they're used to just using the center line and the midline as like the points that they need to cross through for their pinwheel. So just make sure that you help them find the corners of their boxes for this. But this is also really fun, looks super interesting. I think I have a video of this one. Yes, I do. Oh, and I had one for the diamond as well. Okay, Felix, you're fired. Okay, let me quickly show you guys that. Back to boomer moment, changing the stream. Okay, this is the diamond one first. All right, so this is the diamond pinwheel. So now Elena is our anchor here. So she's watching me for alignment across, and then these guys are just riding straight lines through. So I had them slow down to checkpoint to make sharp corners. You can see here that this rider's a little behind. So this is where you would encourage them to take some extended counter stress to catch up. And then you can see here Magpie is kind of alternating between that kind of extended canter and then occasional like gallop strides to stay aligned to Elena here. That's your diamond pinwheel. Right. And this is the box. So in this routine, we kind of did a partial box pinwheel, or we did a half rotation. So these are 15-meter riders. They zoomed out. Whoop. They found their anchors here, and then they're just turning those corners. So this is what's also fun about your box pinwheels is that especially as you get out to the 15 and the 20, if you want to make your corners nice and sharp, those 15 and 20-meter riders really have to zoom in between the corners because otherwise they're going to lose their spoke anchors. So you can see it here. They kind of turn and then zoom, 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 and then they find their rider on the inside on the 5-meter box. All right, so those are those types of pinwheels. Back to the slideshow. I feel like I need like a clicker, like I'm a college professor. All right, that's box pinwheels. And then another type you can do is ovals. Oh, wrong screen. So with ovals, what's interesting is that with all the other pinwheel types that we've looked at, um, they they're like easier to manage, quote unquote, because all your points are equidistant from each other. Like the shape is symmetrical. But with ovals, the shape gets stretched out. So this is where you really have to work with your riders to help them find their points. So in this example of an oval pinwheel, the dots on the midline are the same. Your midline points are the same, but then your centerline points are double in width compared to your midline points. So for example, you have your 5-meter points on the midline, but then your points for the oval are on the 10-meter on the center line. You could make this slightly less of a wide oval, and you could have these points on the half-meter here, for example. Um, but I find that to start with oval pinwheels, even though the shape is really stretched, it's easier to start with full meter sizes. And then once they're more comfortable, you can have them use half meters. Although I did have to use a half meter here for the biggest oval because otherwise it wouldn't fit. So the 20-meter oval, quote unquote, their midline points are the 17.5, and then their center line points are the 35-meter or the dot just in front of the wall. So again, because your dots are not all evenly spaced, get ready to traffic cone for your riders or help them find their dots by using like the arena lines, the meter lines, the wall letters as reference points so they don't get lost in the sauce. What I do often too when we're trying new pinwheel shapes is I'll just say, if you get lost, don't worry. Feel free to like cut through the shape if you need to find your anchor again and realign. Like encourage them not to stop, to try and fix things in the middle if they need to. Just find your spoke anchor again and try to get back into your shape. And then again, if they're really struggling, they can follow you, or if you have a strong rider, they can follow the strong rider. All that good jazz. Okay, and then I think I actually have a video of an oval pinwheel. I do. Okay, time to switch the stream again. uh, here we go. All right, stand by. Here's the video. All right, so this is the oval pinwheel like in the diagram. So again, magpie is the spoke anchor for the B. No, this is E, the E midline spoke. So you'll see that the shape gets really stretched out here, especially with our two larger spokes. They go way out. This rider was a little ahead again on the darker Belgian. So here I gave them guidance to slow down a little. And then here these two riders checkpointed on their letter die as well. And then this rider's a little ahead. Well, no, actually they're doing pretty good. But yeah, the oval shape is really weird at first. So don't be worried if your riders get a little confused the first couple times you try this, because it is a kind of a funky shape. I didn't include it in this uh, clinic, but there's also like a star pinwheel that you can do. Um, and that is interesting. A star pinwheel. If I can find it, I'll send the diagram. Um, it's very interesting. It's a five-pointed star, and yeah, it's fun to ride, but it also breaks your brain a little. Uh, so Gremlin asks, what do you do if your riders are scared of pinwheels? Um, that's a good question. I would just say build their confidence with other things first. So like, why are they scared? Are they scared because they have trouble with the meter system? Like they don't understand like the normal circles, like the 5, the 10, the 15, the 20? Build their confidence there. Maybe they really struggle with comb alignment. So when you try to teach them circle alignment, the dots just aren't being connected. So really work with them on comb alignment. Um, and then maybe like what's confusing is like, oh, I don't understand how I'm aligned across or behind my anchor. My anchor is ahead of me. Another thing you can do is partner cross practice, which is where you set up your riders across from each other in the arena, kind of like you're setting up to do revolves. And you just have them walk, trot, canter, extended canter towards each other and have them practice alignment that way. So for example, say you had like one rider here and one rider here, you have them trotting towards each other. Their goal is to pass the center line at the same time. So even though they're not side by side, they're still aligned across. So say you're the rider who's moving from E-wall as you're approaching the wide tier, as your tail is passing like I think about the quarter line, you can see your partner pretty clearly. You're taking out your binoculars. As your tail is passing each arena line, your partner across their nose is just reaching. Um, So I would say if they're scared of pinwheels, try to identify like what is making them scared and try to build up their confidence around what is making them afraid to try pinwheels. A big thing too, I think, is depending on what clubs or teams your riders have been in the past, or maybe like teachers they've had in school, or maybe coaches they've had for sports. Maybe they were really harshly criticized in the past when they made mistakes. So just overall be encouraging, tell them that mistakes are normal. I also make mistakes sometimes when I'm explaining stuff or I'm demonstrating and go, oh, I made a mistake. That's okay. That's how you learn. So just kind of emphasize it's okay to make mistakes. It's okay to not get things perfect the first time. You get better as you practice. Nobody is perfect. Perfection is not possible. You just improve over time. Um, so yeah, so I would say like build their confidence with like the building blocks of pinwheels, and then yeah, kind of try to find the root cause of like why they're afraid to try it. But they're really fun once you get them right. Um, they look really pretty, and I would say too, like if you can like record over time how your riders are progressing, so they can see how they're improving over time. Um, and like also have your stronger riders encourage your newer or more inexperienced riders, like have them work together, like the strong riders are in front and then the more experienced riders follow them around, that sort of thing. So they feel less pressure because they have like a buddy to follow. That can be helpful. That's a good question. Okay, that's oval pinwheels. Okay, last kind of suggestion I have for y'all is combining shapes. So here's an example. So this is where you take your layers of your pinwheel and you switch the shapes. What I would recommend to start is you just use two shapes and you alternate. So in this example, we have box plus diamond. So your 5 meter and your 50 meter are boxes, and your 10 and your 20 are diamonds. Or you could do 5, 10 diamond and then 15, 20 box. But I think this looks really fun because you have overlapping shenanigans happening. And then once they're comfortable with kind of this idea, you could maybe do like circle and then box and then oval and then diamond if you wanted. But I recommend just alternating to start to get them used to the idea. Um, and then you would set up your spokes the same way. And what you could do too is do the same trick as the split pinwheel. Have each spoke group up and ignore everybody else, so they can just focus on staying aligned to their spoke anchor at first, and then have everybody come out and see all the other riders. What's fun is when you combine shapes like this, similar to the split pinwheel, is you have overlapping sections. So I do have a video I can show you guys of this. But for example, in this case, since the 10-meter diamond, as your riders are traveling to their diamond points, they kind of go just past the corners of the 5-meter box. So if their alignment is really good, you have like a little looks like they're in a tight rein or in buddy formation as they're passing the corners of the 5-meter box. And then here, the 15-meter box and the 20-meter diamond intersect with each other. So as you watch your riders, you can see what looks nicer, but you could ask your 15-meter riders to saddle cross with your 20, or you could ask your 20-meter riders to saddle cross with your 15-meter riders so that they don't trample each other. But you can see what looks nice as they're kind of getting used to the shapes. You kind of see, oh, it would look nicer if these people saddle cross or those people saddle cross, or you could make it even well, depending on what effect you want. You could say, oh, so that these people don't trample each other. Maybe you have your 50-meter riders as they pass like maybe as they're passing the white tier here, they would do a little curl that slows them down, and then your 20-meter riders don't trample them, for example. So you can experiment like that, see what looks nice. Okay, I'll show you guys a video of what that looks like. Uh, Alrighty. Okay, so this is the combination diamond plus box. So we can see here. So this is Elena is riding a 5-meter box, and I think this is Star. Star is riding that 10-meter diamond. So since Star's alignment here was good, as Elena is turning the corner, it looks like Star is in a tight rein with them. Just momentarily here. And then as we get further in, they were kind of getting used to the shape here. See, Magpie's a little bit behind. As they get further into the shape. Here we go. So here, scrub back a bit. Ooh, that's too far. Okay, here we go. So here we can see as Toilet passes the C center line, she was watching Magpie because Magpie then found alignment here with Elena, and she waited and she saddle crossed with Magpie here, so that she didn't trample Magpie. But then here, Toilet got in front a little bit. So like an adjustment I would make is if we tried to use this shape in the routine, is I would ask Magpie to, so first Toilet would saddle cross with Magpie here, and then Magpie would saddle cross with Toilet here so they don't trample each other, for example. Here's another saddle cross there. And then Toad's waiting. See, Magpie's a little head right now. Oh, yeah, a little head. And then, yeah. So you can just kind of play with the shapes that way. Depending on how they look from your top-down perspective, you can use saddle crosses. You can have your riders do little curls or maybe curl fades or, I don't know, some sort of move so they slow down, speed up so that there's not death. You can get creative with it. Alrighty, back to the slideshow. All right, so that's combining shapes. So again, you can get creative with this, use any combination of shapes you like. Maybe you even do a split pinwheel with different shapes for each layer. You could do that as well if you want. Make something really interesting and kind of like, your eyes are like, I don't know what I'm looking at, but wow, this is impressive. Alrighty. Okay, that's the end of that. Um, So thank you so much for attending this clinic. I'll be sending a link to a feedback form in the clinic channel shortly if you have a few minutes. please fill that out. And then if you'd like to be pinged when the recording is uploaded, please send a note in the clinic thread, and then I'll give you a special role to get a ping. And then if you have any questions, feel free to send them now. Or you can DM me if you think of something later. Hopefully this was helpful. Hopefully now you're gonna go and torture your members with pinwheels. Just kidding. They're fun. I promise. They're lots of fun. Misty, yes, I will share the link to the slideshow and the recording at the same time. Yes. So either put a note in the clinic thread and I'll ping you, or just keep an eye on the clinic thread. I'll send everything in there, or in the clinic channel. I mean, the brain company. But yes, hopefully, hopefully now your brain is full of pinwheel knowledge. All right, enjoy the rest of your Saturday, or I don't know if anybody's here from Australia, New Zealand. I think it's Sunday already for y'all on the other side of the world. Have a lovely rest of your day. Goodbye, everybody. Thank you for coming. It's the stage exodus. Everybody's heading out. All right. Have a good one.